Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to North Shore Live Cooper's Corner. We're live this evening with a wonderful, wonderful program. I hope you enjoy it as much as I'm going to enjoy it. On our program this evening, we have a patent attorney, mom, blogger, authoress, and many other goody things that she does for humanity, which really count. JoAnne Denison. Maybe you've heard of her, or perhaps maybe JoAnne has been an attorney for you. She is outstanding, marvelous, a wonderful human being, good person, good soul, and if she can reach out to help you and you can tell her what problems you're having, she will do that. She is just like that. So if you feel tonight's program is of benefit to you, please contact either myself down below here somewhere. It'll be on shortly. There you go. Here we go. Right there. Or you'll see JoAnne's her law practice website, her email, and of course the blog email. And there's so many things happening. And wouldn't you know? One of two things. Today is my anniversary, but I'm here doing a program. It was beautiful weather, and it was wonderful weather 47 years ago, so that's how you know that. And we had probate court this afternoon, so I'm fired up. I'm really fired up. So I'm sure you don't want to hear from me. Maybe you do, but I want to hear from JoAnne, because this is a human being above and beyond all the gold stars or all the stars in the heavens above that you could even imagine. So, without any further ado, this is JoAnne Denison, a #1 human being, patent attorney, authoress, blogger, mom, wife. What else? What am I missing?
And I have 4 children.
Oh, hello. And she has 4 children. Okay. Boy, if that doesn't set you on the seat next to God, I don't know what does. So, okay, tell us what you feel is most important right now, and then we can work. We have the whole program to talk.
Well, first of all, I want to say your introduction is way too generous.
Oh, no,
okay.
No.
It's way too generous. But one of the things I really like to do, Bev, as you know, is right now help people in probate court. And it's a major goal of mine. I have been told for many, many years that probate court, in fact, even when I came out to practice, is one of the sleaziest, most difficult, most horrible areas to practice in.
Terrible. Yes.
It is not at all like federal court, which is where I generally practice when I do patents, trademarks, and copyrights, where the judges are highly respected, highly educated. There's really very little political problems with them. They write well-reasoned, well-done opinions. They get things done on schedule. And then you walk into probate. And it's really so sad. So how many people end up in probate? It's terrible.
Unbearable, unbearable.
Right. And it just so happened a dear friend of mine, she had a terrible, terrible case in probate. I started a blog for her, and her mother right now is under a guardianship with no jurisdiction. And I think as most people learned or should have learned is before you can take any action, or the court can take action in a court of jurisdiction, the judge must make sure that the defendant or respondent is served with a summons and complaint. Unfortunately, Mary Sykes was not served. She was not served properly. In guardianship, it's very, very important for the person who is going to be named incompetent to get 14 days notice in advance of the hearing, of the time, date, and place of the hearing.
And they have her in Cook County, when in reality she's in DuPage.
She's residing in DuPage, and that caused problems with service of the summons and complaint. She was actually bench served, which means they served her in court, and it's kind of a crazy story. The judge, this happens all the time. You've seen this in probate court. The judge cuts off all of the pro se people in front of them. They say, shut up, don't say anything, don't say anything.
True.
Let all the attorneys talk. Oh, I love you, guardian ad litems. Oh, whatever you say is gold that falls out of your mouth. And they're not very helpful to anybody else who is standing there, including the person that's going to be declared incompetent. It's very, very sad. And what happened to Mary was when she went into court, this is my understanding, I wasn't there at that court hearing, but they told her she couldn't talk until she got served. One of the attorneys ran downstairs to get her served, which you're not supposed to do, and I'll explain why. It all makes sense. And then after she got served, they still told her she couldn't talk. It was the saddest thing. She wanted an attorney. One of her family members, who we're not going to talk about, but she got it in writing, she got it on a video, and to this date, Mary still doesn't have an independent attorney. Oh. And the sad thing about it is if you go to probate, if you get a guardian ad litem, it comes from a list.
Oh.
If you want your own attorney as somebody who is being alleged incompetent, it comes from a list. How can we have any real justice? When the judge reaches from a list behind her desk, that's right, and assigns you an attorney based upon what she thinks should be done. And oftentimes, and I hate to say this, it's just to save them work.
Well, the truth is the truth. I have always been known to tell the truth. There's no reason to fabricate anything. No. I'm telling the truth. But we were led to the slaughter by our attorney. 27 years we had Karen Bowes, I have to name her name. I mean, that's who she is. 27 years. She did everything. I mean, we had her for everything that needed to be done. Even the case with my mentally...
the daughter.
And at that time, she was 8 years old. So she knew from the get-go, here in Lake County, that my daughter was ill, and not retarded, but mentally ill, right. Severely mentally ill. She was checked out by 2 psychiatrists from the Lake County court. They did it. We didn't. And they couldn't believe that an 8-year-old child could be so severely ill. And this was even before she even got into court. I mean, she made claims against a technician at Children's Memorial Hospital, and they called the Chicago police, everybody. She was 5 then, 5 years old. And we still don't know if that was false or not. But then at the age of 8, she was involved with a double homicide. Because,
it's very sad.
Because Gail Tular Friedman placed her in a group home in Chicago, and the group of girls all sat around talking how to kill their parents. And one did. Jackie Gibbons did. My daughter was Jackie Gibbons' roommate.
It's very sad.
They put an 8-year-old in with an 18-year-old.
Yes, and they shouldn't do that.
So don't tell me about lawyers that are trying to do good but are on a list because they don't even know what they're doing. And Karen Bowes did that. She did that to us. And along with Karen Bowes, she hired Miriam Solo, incredible, vile person. Yeah,
just to interrupt you there. If anybody,
and she was the GAL.
Right. If anybody wants to know about Miriam Solo, on my blog, there is an amazing, incredible deposition that Miriam Solo took, and I think it's famous or infamous for her lack of, let's put it this way, a good personality. So if you're interested, check out the blog. You can go see an attorney doing a really, really bad deposition. Okay.
She was the GAL that we got.
And I'm sorry, that's she's on the list.
She's on the list.
Look what happens when you get. They never take these people off the list.
She's on the list, and so GALs are supposed to protect the innocent, but they're out for whatever money grubbing they can do. Yes.
Some of them are very good.
Well, excuse me, JoAnne.
You didn't get the good one.
We never found a good one, so I can only speak from the tortured experience that we've had in the Cook County Court in probate with those Bruce Lang, Karen Bowes, and Miriam Solo. And now that group of characters has moved out of the picture, and now we've got a whole nother group with David Martin and some bank officials or whatever. they took from my mother $1.5 million
In fees.
in fees.
And over how many years?
3.
That is absolutely amazing. And I'm glad you're talking about this.
Yes, yes.
Because I think people have to know what happens when you
Yes.
get into probate.
Well, they can't hurt Mother any longer. Mother was starved and to death and dehydrated.
I've heard that.
And she was 99 years old, going into her 100th year. Her birthday was January 31st, and she passed away February 25th, 2011. So she would have already been 1 month into her 100th year that she was going into. And the judge, Judge Kawamoto, would not allow me to see her because Miriam Solo made false charges against me and put an order of protection that I couldn't see my mother, my own mother. For 9 months, I couldn't see my mother. A 99-year-old woman she kept from me and kept from the rest of the family.
I know, it's very sad. And if they don't do that, then what they do is they get some wired-in court agency to sit with you
They did
for
that
$200 an hour.
If this was $160.
Yeah, $160.
1 hour. I have to pay for the privilege of visiting with my own mother, with her children, her grandchildren, and her great-grandchildren for 1 hour only.
That's correct.
Only. And that was it. They couldn't see her any other time. It had to be made whatever timeline the agency wanted, not what was convenient for 10 or 15 people that wanted to come see mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. And they kept her at the Warren Bar Pavilion, which happens to be owned or co-owned by Miriam Solo's cousin. How about them apples?
Ask me if I'm surprised.
Are you surprised?
No, I am not surprised. It turns out a lot of the attorneys, it's my understanding even judges, they all own these nursing homes. And that's the other thing. It's such a shame in this country. The courts want to go after a paid-up home, a large bank account, and then they dump the person in a nursing home.
They dumped her.
And I'm telling you, I go to these nursing homes. My dad from time to time was in a nursing home because he had to be. Those people don't want to be there. I have actually gone there and done volunteer work. None of them want to be there. Nope. And if you start talking about, well, you know, going home or whatever, everybody gets nervous. Nobody wants to lose the money or the income. It's all a huge tightened system between the probate court, the nursing homes, even the hospitals.
And my mother kept saying to me, "Take me out of here, get me home. Take me out of here, get me home." And if
that's what my mother did too, but and I did take her home. I took her home.
But if bad wasn't worse, is that my mother was a voracious eater. She had a wonderful appetite. They didn't want her to eat to survive. They wanted her to die. And so I've
heard this story before too.
They put a GI tube in the stomach, and that's how she was fed. She wasn't allowed any food or water by mouth. Not because she couldn't handle it.
This was in the nursing home, right?
Yes.
Yes.
In the nursing home.
Well, remember, that's much more inconvenient.
Oh, because, listen, it took me 2 hours to feed my mother, but
what else is better to do, right?
This is my mother, and this is what I was doing.
I'm glad you're bringing that up because I've heard that before. Because if you have a relative that can sit there and feed you, and maybe they want to take you home and you're better, they don't want that. What they want to do is they want to isolate that person. I've seen it over and over again. They will intubate them so that they don't have to spend time feeding them.
That's right.
How is that different than the Russian babies that we get, where they have their hands up like this permanently because that's what they do in Russian orphanages? So they don't have to spend any time feeding them. They just they get them on a little assembly line.
And just shove it in.
It's terrible.
Mother just kept saying, you know, take me home, get me out of here, get me out of here.
And you couldn't because the probate court wouldn't let you, right?
I want you to know, that's right, that Miriam Solo assigned my daughter, who is mentally deficient, and there's documentation to prove it. It's not a cold. It doesn't go away.
Right, and there's not much you can do for it.
She's severely ill, severely ill. She will be 40 in 2 months, 40 years old. We've been going through this for 40 years. And she was in and out of 54 placements. 54 placements. And that's not mentioning all the psychiatric hospitals she was in. She was in Willowbrook up in Wisconsin. They had her out of state. And the prerequisite is that you had to have a psychiatric evaluation. They wouldn't put you in there unless the court deemed that you were so severely a threat to yourself and to others. I mean, she put a dog in a microwave oven. What more do you want? She went after us with a butcher knife. You can't make this stuff up. This is real, true-to-life thing. They put that child of mine in charge of my 99-year-old mother. And they made me wait in the lobby at the Warren Bar Pavilion and allowed my husband to go upstairs, but I couldn't visit my mother.
This is Miriam Solo, right?
This is Miriam Solo, correct.
All right. Just so everybody knows, when you see Miriam Solo, run the other way.
No, you have to file charges against her. She's an animal. She truly is an animal. She's evil. She has no human feelings at all, and she delights in torture. You talk about Nazis, or you talk about concentration camps. I don't know where she learned her tactics, but she is a very evil, inhumane, vile, I'm not going to say, she's not a human being. Even a robot, I think, probably has more feeling than this person that is a money grubber, and she just goes after whatever money she can find. And she'll sell you down the river because she was at first our attorney that Karen Bowes hired for us for the GAL, and she turned. Is this not a cardinal rule that you cannot, you should not be able to switch gears and be on one side and then turn around and be on the other side in the court? What kind of a thing is that?
I think it happens all the time. Well, sometimes, and I had heard this a long time ago when I was first an attorney, I was cautioned about the guardians ad litem. Make sure you get a good one, because if you don't get a good one, what they do is the bad ones stir up a lot of trouble in the family.
They do.
And then that's how they make their money.
They do.
They know exactly what they're doing, and until you really get on their butt, or unless you can show, and I was able to do this with one of them, and I don't even remember her name, but I was able to show that she didn't have a clue what she was doing. And this was 10 years ago, and it was with my 90-year-old grandfather.
See.
She ran into my mom's house, and she said, "Oh, there's no air conditioning," when she knew they were putting it in that day. Then she goes and she looks at the thermostat, and she goes, "It's 90 degrees in here." On an emergency order, and I even forget the judge's name, he has him removed from the house, taken to just a crappy nursing home, out of his own home with my mother, right, as guardian. And so what I was doing for the whole week is I would go up there, measure the temperature, and it was 90 degrees every day in this nursing home. And at my mom's house, it was fine. It was 75, right, just the way old people like it. And then when we went into court on the emergency hearing, I had a picture of the thermostat. I'll tell you another thing they do. And I asked her on the stand, because we were allowed to question her about why she did all these emergency petitions.
That's what Miriam Solo did.
Right. She didn't know that one was for the air conditioning and one was for the heating. And she was reading the one for the heating. That was the end of the hearing. The judge shut everything down. I tried to get the transcript later, because I thought, oh, we could just sue her for complete malpractice and being totally stupid.
Well, that would be.
Here's a good one. First mistake, I used the official court reporters from the 6th floor of the Daily Center. That transcript was gone faster than...
I believe it.
In 2 days, it had disappeared. Call up the court reporter every day. Oh, well, I almost have it done. And then after 2 weeks, it was it got stolen out of my car because you wanted it done really quick.
Oh.
Then I find out all of the transcripts are locked up in a vault. So then I asked her, how did she get it out of the vault?
And?
There was no answer to that.
I know.
Right.
I know you were going to say
There's no answer. So rule number 1 to probate from an attorney who has been there and who has been thrown under the bus is get your own court reporter. If you're going in on an important motion, make sure you get your own court reporter, because if you use the ones the court provides, they're tied into, I have heard transcripts being dramatically altered.
Changed. Oh, yes.
Changed, altered, lost all the time. So that is one good tip and trick to bring up.
Okay.
And another thing that you'll find, we talked about the fact that pro se people especially, or if you don't have a good attorney, you get in there, they don't let you speak. And that is, they sometimes even do like to me because I'm a new attorney or they don't like whatever. So one of the things you can do is you can file a report with the court, like just the day after, dump it on the judge, serve courtesy copies on the judge, get it in the record because, you know, you probably want to appeal of all the stuff they lied about. And I've done that. To this day, I still do it. And I have been into court. I have had attorneys lie about the law. They're on my blog. All this stuff is on my blog. Just right out and round in the middle of court, lie about the blog, lie about who was represented, not represented, and you have to go back and get affidavits. I stuff it in a report to the court, we take it up on appeal. And I've got one case on appeal right there. Just a pack of lies, and we're just going through them right now. It's going up on appeal, and I'm going to have the appeal brief done in 1 week because I've got another woman, Winifred Carol Wyman. She is under an abusive guardianship. She was under that until the son was able to get her away to Colorado. And she was in one of the worst, it had to be worst nursing home in the United States. She was beaten, I mean, severely beaten, sexually abused. There were, the whole nursing home had a terrible smell. It was absolutely awful, and it was not until John, and he wrote a book. Okay, so get his book.
John was on the program.
He was on the program.
Yeah,
get his book. I highly recommend it before you walk into that hall of probate so that you know what you're walking into. Rockford's no better. Cook County's, you really have to watch what you're doing there. And I'll tell you what, the other thing you should know is, I'm going to give you permission tonight. It is okay to fire your lawyer. It is okay. When they're not walking into court and standing up to you and standing up to all the other crap they pull, go ahead, fire your lawyer, get a young, hungry one, get somebody in there who will stick up for you and who will take things to appeal.
The problem with that is that they may be too intimidated by the other attorneys that are around there, that if they dare,
I'm not.
That's
I have a big
good.
mouth. I go in there, I have a big mouth, I don't care.
But there are some other attorneys, and I remember saying to Karen Bowes, way back when she was doing these cases for DCFS, false allegation, and I said, Karen, I said, please don't become jaded like the other attorneys. Don't become like the other attorneys. Stand your ground, do the right thing, and people will love you, and you will be known as an honorable person. What was it, Shakespeare? Kill all the lawyers?
Kill all the lawyers.
Yeah,
First thing we do is kill all the lawyers.
Yeah, that's what Shakespeare said. So it's not out of my mouth, how many centuries ago? So the point is that, the young and the hungry ones are still kept under thumb because
some of them will be.
Because they're afraid they won't be able to practice in that court situation if they dare step on the toes of the GAL or they step on the toes of the judge. Because, by the way, you should know that this judge has never been elected to office. She has a terrible write-up, who she is,
all
what
over
she
the
is,
internet, right?
all over. Judge Lynn Kawamoto, terrible.
But you know
terrible.
you can change judges.
And we can't. We're in this 6 years. How can we do this now? She won't give this up. She didn't want to give this up. And we're going to start all over. My mother is dead. They murdered my mother. My mother is dead. They can't bring her back to life. Her name is not Lazarus. They can't blow air into her lungs. What can I do? She's under 6 feet of ground and all this snow we have. So she's not. I was looking for justice. Where is the justice? Where is the justice? She was healthy, alive. All she had was arthritis, bedridden with arthritis, no other diseases. And they starved her to death and dehydrated. She was bone. I have pictures we took. And Miriam Solo made a false allegation charge against me.
No, she wanted to get the heat off of her.
That I made my mother cry, and that's why I shouldn't have visitation. I made my mother cry. And we would go up to her room, and to keep for the children and the grandchildren and great-grandchildren an on-running scenario of who great-grandmother was, who she is, to hear her talk. We took pictures, and she talked, and we had recordings of how she talked. What's the weather out today, Mother? Stuff like that.
Right.
And Miriam Solo picked a day, and she said, that's the day that the daughter made her cry, and I want an order of protection against her, that she doesn't come anywhere near.
Well, she can't get an order of protection against you for merely saying something and getting tears.
Excuse me, but Judge Kawamoto allowed it, and she did.
Well,
so
there's
for
a special...
9 months, I did not have contact.
That's an isolation order. That's what that is. And there are a lot of those out there. But it's not an order of protection.
Not only that, is we have the recording. I said, you know, because we would come back and the children would say, what did grandmother say? What did great-grandmother say? Did she talk?
And there's nothing from that day.
Did she talk? We're talking about the weather. We're talking about...
But you recorded that day.
Yes, we did.
Did you have it transcribed by a court reporter and filed?
We gave two CDs to David Martin, who is the GAO.
Guardian ad litem, right?
Yes, and he sat on it. He did nothing.
Okay, so this is what you do from now on.
Okay.
You take the recordings.
Yes.
And you have them transcribed by an official court reporter.
Okay.
Not one in the basement.
No, we'll get our own.
Get your own. And you file a report to the court, and you ask that the order be invalidated. Nothing happened. Here it is, Your Honor. Here's the report.
But she's already passed away, so...
I know. But we're here, though,
to
help other people.
Other people.
That's right.
Okay.
Which is what I do. I can't erase your pain, your sorrow, your agony.
Terrible.
And I'll tell you what, your ordeal with having your elderly mother starve to death, it happened in the Gore case. Did you know it happened in the Lydia Tyler case? Happened to Lydia Tyler. Same thing.
Same thing.
So if anybody thinks this can't happen,
oh no.
She had written in numerous hospital records.
Yes.
I want food, I want hydration, I want my life prolonged, no major surgeries. But then somebody who had a power of attorney from like 5-6 years ago came in and said, she signed this. Apparently she was sick or something, and here's what she said about having a power of attorney, and that's how they put and I don't even think it's legal. They put a DNR in her. They won't give her any food except for pudding or sherbet, and she was dead in about 4 weeks.
She was dead in 8 days.
Was it? Okay.
Lydia Tyler was dead in 8 days. They put the patch on her, a morphine patch, and in 8 days she was dead.
That's right.
I had Catherine on the program. So
is that what she said?
Yes, that's what she read.
Oh, she told me she was in tears.
And not only that, is my mother wanted full code. Everybody, everything on my mother's paperwork said full code.
Right.
Do you know they had a DNR bracelet on her? I didn't know until after we had to cut it off. When she was in the morgue for 8 days, we didn't know where she was. The nursing home called 6 or 8 hours after her passing. They tried to call my daughter, and she never answered the call. They called her twice in the middle of the night. She never answered the call. And nobody bothered to call me until the following morning. And that's when we found out. I was awakened about
terrible.
8 o'clock in the morning that my mother had passed away. When? I said, when? In the middle of the night, about 2 o'clock. I said, why wasn't I called? Well, that was left up to the guardian. Who is the guardian? My daughter, Kimberly Cooper,
who is
mentally ill.
Yeah.
That's right.
And
there. She never responded. Never responded to the nursing home
because she's not able to do so.
She's not. But this is who Judge Kawamoto put in my
appointed.
Place. Yes, she appointed her.
Right.
Because
even though she was mentally ill,
yes.
and even though you said you found a code provision saying she couldn't be appointed.
That's correct. And that Miriam Solo
she did it anyway.
said it was okay. And because they put these tubes in my mother, and she was starved to death and dehydrated. She's
not the only one I've heard of.
She was like, JoAnne, she was like a
zombie, I'm sure.
Like they found you see these pictures of Auschwitz and all the concentration camps of the people that lay there with bones, just bones. This is
that's what it doesn't
my
take
mother's
long.
legs. My mother's legs were like that, a circumference of maybe 3 inches. We have pictures. We took pictures of my mother, and that she had foot sores and back sores and whatever. And I kept saying, "Are these being taken care of?" "Oh yes, they're being taken care of." "Oh yes, well, we can't do this. We have to ask permission." I said, "You see that she is in need of care. What permission? The guardian has to give permission for you to do that."
And let's talk about another thing, because I think this is probably true with your mother. Isn't it true that she had enough money you could have taken her home and cared for you in your own home?
That's correct.
And you were prevented from doing that, right?
We asked the court.
Right.
And Miriam Solo, they refused. Miriam Solo refused. Absolutely not. They wouldn't let her home. with $1.5 million, you don't think? And I was only spending on her because she had her own apartment, which also was owned by the same cousin that Miriam Solo had, who owns the Warren Bar Pavilion, and this was the Park Plaza, and we were paying rent there. It's not a nursing home. It was assisted living. They cooked the food, but she still had a little kitchen. I would go buy her food. I had a caregiver for her.
It doesn't matter.
But I was there 12 hours a day.
You could have had her
in my own home.
In your own home.
Yes.
In a hospital bed with a 24-hour nurse, right?
And I paid for a hospital bed, and we left it in her apartment. I paid for everything. I didn't know about
and this is
public aid.
Judge Kawamoto and Miriam Solo.
Absolutely.
You were not allowed to take her home in a home placement with a loving daughter.
No, I'm the only daughter. My other brother passed away. He's gone. And my oldest brother is 78 years old. He's in California. He has a heart condition. He's very ill. And I'm the only one that cared for her.
Right.
I cared for her for 5.5 years with the power of attorney. I was caring for her.
And you did a great job.
And I maybe spent $4,000 a year to be able to buy her food, that I made soup and food.
Right.
And I bought her whatever needs that she needed hygienically, or whatever she needed, and her medication, whatever she needed. And the court was hysterical that I spent $4,000 on her. And they wanted me to pay back all this money for the last 5 years for $4,000 every year. What is that?
That makes no sense. But I'm getting that impression from Judge Kawamoto that she does that.
She does.
It makes no sense. But there are other judges that don't do that. There are other judges that have the preference for a home placement. They understand it costs money to take care of a ward, and your mother had plenty of money. So what's the problem?
And
she should have been at home.
She would be with us. She would be with the family. That prolongs life. But she wasn't ill with anything that was
serious,
a contributor to her death. We fed her. I fed her 2 hours.
How did she end up in a guardianship? That's why, because a lot of people, and people ask me, well, should she get a guardianship?
No,
can we do a power of attorney?
I was power of attorney.
Right.
I told you, I was power of attorney. Karen Bowes was our attorney, 27 years. That's the one that led us to the slaughter. And Karen said that guardianship trumps power of attorney.
This is true.
So you need to go and get a guardianship. So the minute we walked into that courtroom, that's when all hell broke loose.
Yes.
And every time I'd raise my hand, I'd like to say something. No, you can't speak. Judge Kawamoto.
That's Kawamoto,
I said, no, you can't speak. No, you can't speak. And I said to Karen, I motioned her over. She says, what's the matter? I said, you need to tell this judge Kimmy is mentally ill. And then Karen walked away to the farthest end she could walk. And here is Miriam Solo flapping her arms, running up and down the court aisle. And I swear to God on my word, that's exactly what she was doing. She was hysterical. Miriam Solo was hysterical.
Why?
Whether she took her medication that day, I have no idea. She flapped her wings like some bird. We were stunned to watch her running up and down the aisle. She wanted to get her point across. She didn't know how to do it. She was out of breath. And
what did she want to say?
Who knows? And everything and anything that was against me, but everything that was wrong.
You were a long-term caregiver with the power of attorney, and you weren't appointed.
Yes.
Sounds like other cases I know. And that's why I'm saying, I have people come to me and say, should I get a guardianship or power of attorney? And I have to tell them, before you get a guardianship, think long and hard about it, because it can turn into a complete mess. And you can't trust the guardians ad litem. Here we go again.
See?
In probate court, because sometimes they just stir up trouble in the family.
They do.
They appoint the wrong person guardian so that they make more money. Now let's get to the second part of this. We've spent a half hour on all the horrible things that I've heard, I've even experienced myself. You've heard, you've experienced, because you've been doing this for a long, long time.
A lot of years.
So let's talk about what happens to an attorney when you start running a blog that talks about these things.
One more thing before we get that. It's very short.
Go ahead.
We have just found 2 keys to 2 boxes. that my mother had.
Right, yeah. You told me that.
And I was power of attorney. We went to my mother's attorney for this. She made all the paperwork in front of him. He's very well known, and she trusted him implicitly. And what we found out now, and my mother was having difficulty, and you know, she was kind of hallucinating or whatever. This is back in 2003. Mm-hmm. The early part of 2003, I think I was power of attorney in 2002, and so I said, we need to take her to a doctor. I don't know, something's wrong here. She was hallucinating. Something wasn't what it was, the reality.
Yeah, there could be low blood sugar, it could be a number of things.
It was whatever it was,
right.
You know, that there was a cat sitting on her shoulder, that there were...
She needs to get to the doctor.
There were chicken feathers in the chicken sandwich that we went to a restaurant, Hackney's, and she wasn't going to eat it. She made me call the maitre d', she made me call the chef, everybody. The long and the short of it is this.
What happened?
I was power of attorney, and Kimberly took her to the bank and took whatever was in those boxes.
Because she knew Grandma was out of it.
That's right. And my mother was always fearful of her, always fearful of Kimmy. Because Kimmy is big, and my mother was a small woman.
Yeah.
And so this is where it lies. Kimmy violated my power of attorney. You violated the law. Look what you did. You took an elderly person, took her to the bank, and withdrew whatever was in those two boxes.
Funny. Yeah, it's abusive. Yeah.
Where do we go? What do we do? But let's go to you. But you need to contact the blog. JoAnne's going to tell you exactly what goes on. So
yeah, I'm going to tell you now. After you've heard about all these people going through the ringer, all these horrible things that happen in probate court.
Terrible.
Now I'm running a blog, and I'm putting on there exactly what I hear, exactly what I see in court, all the things I know that you can't do in court. For instance, attorneys coming from behind the judge's corridors, totally verboten since Greylord. And if you guys don't know what Greylord is, Wikipedia, it was one of the greatest scandals that ever rocked the circuit courts of Cook County.
Cook County, absolutely.
Cook County, 110 judges and attorneys indicted. 17 judges went to federal prison, and apparently it was only the tip of the iceberg. And another 44 attorneys went to prison for bribes, corruption, and the rest of them died or retired or turned in their licenses. That was back in 1985, before I even started. I had heard about it. I was mostly a patent attorney. I practiced in federal court, put it out of my head. And today, here we are standing here, and I hear all these horrible stories, and I don't know what to do for some of these victims, so I start writing a blog. Like, stop this. This is terrible. How could this happen in the United States of America? Oh. And I think Ken Dukowski was here. The ARDC went after him. Yep. He suffered a 2-day trial. And you were there. It was a waste of taxpayer money.
Absolutely. We were there both days.
Ken Dukowski is one of the kindest, most caring, most honest lawyers you will ever meet in your entire life.
Wonderful.
A wonderful human being.
Oh, indeed.
At 75, he is just one of the best lawyers I've ever met.
Wonderful.
And he will speak out when other people won't. He talks about the corruption. He asks for investigations, and of course, they're really hard to come by for some reason. I guess there's too many coffee breaks to do. And the ARDC went after him, and the basis of his complaint was really, it was going into probate court, trying to help out Mary Sykes, finding out that they wanted, Judge Connors sanctioned him because the only person that can help Mary Sykes has to come from a list. There's no law. That's not in the Illinois Probate Act. But he gets sanctioned $5,000, gets overturned on appeal, then he gets hit by the ARDC like a 1-2 punch, turn the other cheek. Oh, let's go just kill him. And his complaint was, and you can read it, it's up on my blog. Ken's complaint is up there. My complaint is up there now. And the interesting thing is, he actually tried to help Mary and call for an investigation, and he wrote all the authorities, which I don't see anything wrong with that. I thought, you know, I'm reading the lawyer's canons.
It's the law. It's the law.
I thought it was the law. I thought lawyers were supposed to be officers of the court. We're supposed to report crime to the authorities.
So?
We're supposed to report people to the ARDC, and we did. Ken and I did.
Yeah.
The ARDC just, I've never even heard on the Mary Sykes case. Never heard on it. John Wyman, it took them a half a year. They wrote back to me with some kind of strange thing, and I have to get back to them.
Yeah.
They denied all of it. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then they come after me for running a blog. So I'm hoping tonight people will get to my blog, write, call, or fax the ARDC. The numbers are on my blog, and tell them you cannot go after an attorney, try and discipline them for running a blog talking about the fact that there's corruption in River City. What's going on here?
Yes, there is corruption.
And you and I talked about it, and of course my blog is funny. Okay, it's not dry, it's not boring.
No.
It's funny. And if you look at the complaint is funny too. And if you know anything about the history of American law, one of the things that our founding fathers and mothers did is they put into the Constitution this right to free speech. But a big part about it was the people in America, the burgeoning colonies, would make fun of King George with all these horrible, funny, political, biting things. I mean, Benjamin Franklin was one of the funniest guys that ever lived. And so that's what I try to do with my blog. I mean, nobody's going to read it unless it's funny and entertaining. And the ARDC, that was right in there. You got to read it in there. And I have a disclaimer, and it talks about the fact that my blog is going to be stinging, it's going to be humorous, it's going to be interesting, it's going to be entertaining, because I want you to read it.
And it's very easily read. It's wonderfully easily read. And as we were sitting in the ARDC, what is it, the 14th floor of the plaza?
Oh yes, the Ivory Towers. The Ivory Towers over there.
It's Mr. Obama's office was right upstairs, so we had security up the wazoo. There was security all over. He wasn't even in Illinois at the time.
Oh, they paid for extra security.
They paid for extra security.
Because they had a
hearing
with a bunch of old people. This is so funny. All the blogs show up. It's all old people, right?
Yep.
And then we have like old lawyers, old boring lawyers sitting at the tables, and yet the state of Illinois, and we were trying to figure out from building security how much the taxpayers of Illinois are paying for this.
And there must have been 15 people that were sitting in there. And what are they afraid of? I think the youngest was, 75? But you and I were in there, and here is JoAnne.
Oh, yeah, they're all excited. And I'm blogging it.
She's
and then
blogging at the same
kicked
time.
Out, right.
That's right.
They had a fit. And then, you know when they really, we really got it? Is one of the attorneys I call miscreants, Ken came up with that. Adam Stern always gets me kicked out for blogging. And in fact, I think there's a recent ruling that you can't have any kind of electronic devices. And I think it's because I kept on faxing Timothy Evans, who is the chief judge, and I kept on faxing him and saying, do you want to be on the side of right or do you want to be on the side of wrong? It is mentioned in my ARDC complaint. My entire ARDC complaint is about an attorney running a blog asking for investigations into these suspicious cases, asking why things that were banned from Greylord, going back into the judge's private areas by the GALs and by the plenary guardian attorneys. Why is this going on? I've got it all over my blog. I don't even accuse anybody. They said I accuse people of crimes. I don't know anything about crimes. I'm a patent attorney. I also happen to know there is no way on God's green earth I have ever seen anybody from probate court go to jail. It's always you have to pay restitution. You have to have a payment plan. So when they say that I'm accusing people of crimes, it's ridiculous. I never even did that.
Well,
I'm a civil attorney.
I could do that. I can, but I'm not an attorney. But I know that they've committed crimes.
I should have the right to put it on my blog.
Of course you have the right. It's a First Amendment right. Why not? We're here under First Amendment right.
Exactly.
And Second Amendment right, I didn't pull out my handgun, but we're ready. This is the right to bear arms. I have bare arms. I can pull up my sleeves and have bare arms. Here you go. We have bare arms.
But you know why there's a right to bear arms? It has nothing to do with the fact you want to protect yourself from, I don't know, the guy, the weird guy walking down the street. It's actually to protect yourself from the government.
Well, this is true.
And that's
the
what
government
they said.
is afraid. They're afraid if the public has arms.
They said in order to have a strong country, we're going to have a strong militia, and in order to keep the militia in check, the citizens have to bear arms.
That's right.
It's crazy. It's just totally crazy.
The long and the short of this is that you have now charges. Have you not against you from the
I do
from the ARDC
from the ARDC
for
running a blog.
Well, everybody come down, JoAnne. When you go to court, we just call everybody come down, and you can sit in there. It's open to the public. You don't have to have.
Well, I even have a better idea. But my idea, and I'm probably going to send Jerome Larkin, who's the director. They just changed attorneys on me. By the way, Ken Dukowski's a prosecuting attorney. Her name was Leah Black. Remember, her shoes were too big, right?
Her shoes
and I
were
got
too
it on the
big.
blog. They didn't mention it in my complaint, but she did such a good job going after an attorney that had done nothing else.
Oh.
They just promoted her, since she doesn't know anything about jurisdiction and
Oh,
probate,
my
or that we have
God.
First Amendment rights, or that you have to get a summons and complaint. It has to be 14 days in advance. Since she doesn't know anything about the law, she's been promoted. There you go. Just like, remember that song in HMS Pinafore, Now I Am the Ruler of the Queen's Navy? Remember that? I polished up the doors so carefully.
This is, yes, and we have found that this follows precedent, because even social workers who screw up people's lives and destroy the families and the children are promoted. They're not demoted.
You mean the anti-social workers?
Yeah,
I've heard that.
Yes.
From
they are promoted and not demoted, or
kicked out,
or whatever, and they're transferred somewhere else to do the same harm and the same evil to other people as they have done.
And they don't keep track of them.
No.
They get fired for filing false reports, stirring up trouble, making more money.
Just do it.
Taking bribes.
Right,
exactly.
Just do it.
That's just like the Catholic priests and all this. I mean,
and that's very sad, because these are people that you are hoping that will clarify a very tragic situation. And the priests, we know, I mean, for goodness sakes, I mean, how can you do that? The trust of little children, and that they're terrified and frightened. They won't go to heaven. God will not accept them if they don't let the priest have their way with them. And the fact that the same thing is that if the social worker, if you can't find goodness in the social worker to help you be removed from a bad situation or an abusive parent or abusive whatever
situation, or if you need
it doesn't make a damn bit of difference. Evil is evil, wrong is wrong, and these people prosper, and the victims die. The victims die.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Something has got to be changed. Corruption abounds in Cook County. Well, Lake, it's subconscious.
I haven't
here.
been to Lake County, but you know.
Well, you're in it right now.
I'll tell you what. I've got complaints out to Rockford. I'm going to have to be going into court next week out in Rockford. I don't want to go there. And another miscreant, Sharon Rudy, she's up to no good out there again. And the words cannot describe how upset I am about this when I talk to these victims. It's just terrible. The probate court victims, the families that are terrorized, the people with loved ones that are ripped from them. As you noticed, isolation. Mary J. Sykes can't see 90% of her family. Hasn't seen him for 3 years.
My mother said to me, she said, "Why haven't you come to see me?" I said, "Mother, I come. They won't let me upstairs. They won't even let me within 1,000 feet of the nursing home." And that was Miriam Solo and Judge Kawamoto. This is what did it. And she said, "But if you're downstairs, come upstairs." I said, and they said to me, "You're not allowed to tell your mother anything. You don't tell your mother anything." I said,
I know that. They do it all the time.
If my mother asks me, I'm going to tell her. I don't want her for 1 minute to not think that I don't want to come to see her. And so I would tell her.
You should have a right to, you know what, anybody who is isolated from their loved ones by the GALs, they should have the right to be able to tell that person, "I am not allowed to see you." That is such an important thing.
And I said, "Mother, the Judge Kawamoto and Miriam Solo prevented me, won't let me come to see you. I swear that is exactly what I told her."
Otherwise, I would be there every
That's
minute
right.
of
And then
every
I whispered
hour.
in my ear, "Mother, I'm going to care for you. I will take care of you." So she knew I was there, and she knew the reason why I didn't see her, and she knew that I cared enough about her to be there. But to keep me 9 months away from her, for what reason? Because Miriam Solo said so? Let's keep Miriam Solo in a jail cell for 9 months and have no one come to see her, and let's see how that works.
Let her wander, and don't ever tell her why.
No, there's no reason. That's right.
That is one of the most cruel forms of elder abuse that I've ever seen, is this court-ordered, court-sanctioned, because somebody cried or somebody made up some story, this isolation.
She made up a story.
And it happens all the time.
And there's 2 CDs we gave to Martin, the GAL, and he sat on it. He's doing nothing about it.
All right, so anybody has a situation, I want to tell you what to do.
Good.
Get it on video, but you have to get it transcribed by an official court reporter, put it in a pleading, and the pleading should be entitled "Report to the Court," and get it in the file. That's the only way to, and then, you know, when it's time to appeal, you appeal it up, you know. And maybe the court needs a supervisory order. You know, we're looking more and more at doing those right now because we're not getting any relief in the trial courts. They're out of control. Oh, one of the things I was going to tell you about Jerome Larkin, he's the head of the ARDC, and I think he was wandering around, a little skinny guy, right? Wasn't he?
Yes, yes.
Little skinny guy.
Yes,
okay.
This is true.
You know what? I could tell.
I didn't know who he was.
I could tell. He's got to be Jerome Larkin, because he would come in and do this little supervisory thing, and he would kind of like, oh, watch Leah Black or whatever. Yeah, right. Save me. But I was thinking, one of the things I'm going to get to do, one of the things Ken didn't do, is I really want to get expert witnesses on constitutional law. So I'm going to be emailing and writing all the constitutional law professors. But the one thing I want to know is, who is Jerome, and if anybody can answer this, email me, who is Jerome Larkin's con law professor? I would like to know, because I would like to have him be my expert witness so that he can explain to Jerome Larkin exactly what free speech rights mean under the U.S. and Illinois Constitution. They're embodied in both of them. And I guess I have a new attorney I just found out today, because, you know, Leah did so well. She didn't know anything about the law. Yeah. They promoted her. So I guess the new attorney is Haskell. So I'm going to be trying to find out who her con law professor is too. Haskell. And between the two of them, I hope the professors come back and say, I don't know what grade you got, but it doesn't amount to more than a D if you're doing this right now. That is for sure. It's terrible. You have to read the complaint.
Terrible. Just terrible.
It's not the law. It's not even close to the law.
But you're only calling attention to the wrongdoing that's being done, and it's not that you're representing people that are being wrongly.
Most of them I don't represent. I do represent a few, but I say very little about it.
Okay, but the point is that you're saying, look,
the truth. I'm telling the truth.
These people are doing wrong. Why don't they correct the wrong that they're doing?
Well, it's shoot the messenger and not the miscreant. That's the only, we have our little sayings on the blog. Yeah. You know, and they're protecting somebody. And I don't know where this protection is coming from or why it's so important.
Well, because it's called corruption. Somebody is paying somebody off.
Oh, they don't like to hear the word corruption.
Well, that's too bad.
I got told by the ARDC that...
Corruption?
Yes,
corruption.
Right. And corruption is deviation from an ideal or from a standard, and this is definitely it. When you're not following the law, that is corruption.
Well, it's either corruption by monetary gains, ill-gotten gains, or it's corruption by how you can promote yourself into different positions, higher positions, of course, of promotion.
There are many forms of corruption.
A lot of corruption. But the point being is that we saw in my mother's case was financial.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Was financial. We know that someone has a castle, a beautiful home in Malibu, California. Hello. And he's...
Is that Miriam Solo?
No, that's David Martin.
Well, you know, it's really funny that the Guardian...
No, she has money in offshore accounts.
Oh, she does? Okay.
She's in the Cayman Islands.
Well, you know what's really funny? All of these people that have been bilked by the Guardians ad litem, they don't know this. Their victims go and find out where they live, and then they drive by and they show everybody, look at the fancy house they got by bilking my mom's estate, $500,000, $1 million, whatever it is, you know, selling a paid-for house. Yeah. There are so many things I can tell you, so many evil little things. Here's a little tidbit. You'll love this, right? You know what they do in Rockford? I found this out. There is a Medicaid exclusion, and it's up to $104,000 right now. Wow. So what they do is, you know, and that's what you have to leave your spouse. If the house isn't worth at least $104,000, you can't sell it to pay the probate fees and the nursing home fees. You know, your other spouse gets to live here. So you know what they do? The wired in court, they go and get these like wired in appraisers to take a $60,000 home, say it's worth $104,000 so they can sell it, and then they sell it to a buddy for 60% of the value.
I know. Is that terrible?
That was a good one. That's a good one, isn't it?
That is good.
And I said it here.
You need to be able to connect with JoAnne. Her blog. Her blog is terrific. If you're having any problems with it, there it goes. JoAnne Denison. There's her blog, MarySykes.com.
MaryGSykes.com.
Yes, there it is. And if you want to connect with JoAnne in her law office, it's down below, JoAnne@DenisonLaw.com. And read the blog. It's important. It's interesting. And if you have something to add to it, please connect with her and let her know what you've gone through. And she could add that onto the blog. She's wonderful. You understand. She is an attorney, one of the very few and far between honorable people And, you know, Shakespeare, forgive me, but I mean, we have located one.
Well, besides Ken, Ken is very good too.
Ken Dukowski, yeah.
Yeah,
So.
I've had to tell you how many attorneys I've had, and I've talked to them about this, and they turn the other way. They run the other way. I got told today, I'm afraid of the ARDC. Yeah. I've gotten told by other ones, you don't make any money doing this. Where's the money? Well, and I'm like, well, you know, I'd rather have other things.
Where is honor and integrity?
Exactly.
I mean, you know, and by word of mouth, and believe me, everybody's going to be seeing this program. By word of mouth, this is the best advertising for a blog. A blog.
I know, a blog.
A blog. This is your given right, First Amendment right, a blog. And, you know, that you are a decent human being and honorable, absolutely. And the fact being is that you're doing this to help those that have been victimized. And God bless you, because what you do is irreplaceable. I can't think. You know, life, what can we other say that life, because we live for a life, truth, justice, and the American way. The probate court does not tell the truth, and the probate court does not have justice, and the probate court is not following the American way. The probate court, in and of itself, needs to be monitored, investigated, and jailed, because we know every one of those judges on that bench.
They do. They really need an investigator or a panel of investigators that come from the federal court, where they are appointed, where they are intelligent, where they know the law, and they come from the same standards as the federal court judges that are over there. We're not seeing it in the Circuit Court of Illinois. It is the saddest thing. I understand that we have the state courts, they're elected, but they don't have to be this bad. And we desperately do need a panel of investigators.
You know, all around the world, with Rotary, I went to South America. That's where my mother comes from, Buenos Aires, Argentina. And all they kept saying down there is Chicago, the gangsters, the mobsters.
Right, that's all they know.
And listen, has times changed from the St. Valentine's massacre? Oh, they're doing this in probate court. They are doing this in probate court. So times have not changed. Gangsters are there. The 18th floor of the Daly Center. Come upstairs. Come sit and visit in one of those courtrooms. It's a public building. You can come, you can hear, and you can judge for yourself what goes on in the corruption in each one of those courts. I've not found, really, any of those GALs.
You've not found any relief up there?
No relief. No relief. No relief.
I know. Well, I'm really sorry to hear that, but you know what? If you go, this is what I argued in one of my motions that I had to do before the court. I don't understand why on the 18th floor they don't know what jurisdiction is, but if you go down to the 14th floor where they do evictions, FEDs, they're called forcible evictions and detainers, those judges are very, very careful. When they open that file, they look for the summons, the complaint, they look for the 5-day or the 10-day or the 30-day notice, and they will not take jurisdiction. And in fact, they will immediately non-suit a case, you know, if somebody comes in with proof that this wasn't done correctly.
Oh my God. Well,
so why is it on the 14th floor they get it, and the 18th floor it's a disaster?
I don't know. We hear the music. The music is playing.
The music is playing.
Yes. Thank you so much for allowing us in your home or your place of business. I hope you enjoyed our program this evening. Please connect with JoAnne's blog. You'll love it. It's wonderful. It's humor, but it's the truth. And we're going to have her back again for sure. And if you have any questions, either contact me, bev.cooperscorner@yahoo.com, or JoAnne Denison on her blog. It was wonderful having her. You'll enjoy her blog. It's really an eye-opener and a waker-upper. Thank you, JoAnne. Thank you.